I'm Ida Ruth's sixth killer, and my married name is Bryant. We grew up at the end of the Depression, three sisters, my mother and father, and we lived in a little village called Sycamore. The town was around a spring that was named Sycamore. It's an ever-running spring. And so the little town was around it, and of course everybody was either kin to us or they were married to somebody that was kin to us. So we were never far from some place where us kids could go play or go eat or stay all night if we wanted to. Everybody, that was when people used to watch out for everybody else's kids, and it was a wonderful time. At that spring was where they did the washing, and then the whole community gathered around that spring. If they had to butcher hogs or whatever had to be done, just to sit and gossip, it was at the spring. We learned, us girls learned to milk cows and buck bales and everything that a boy does, because we were three girls, there were no boys, and we helped our dad a lot on the farm. We didn't feel hateful about it. It was a normal thing we had to do. You just get up at 4 o'clock in the morning because you got to get all that done, the chores done before you go to school. Then we had to walk 3 miles to school every morning. And didn't mind that at all, because my aunt, who was a school teacher at that time, was teaching at the school we went to. It was a little country school. We got into things. We jumped out of barns. We jumped off of bluffs into the water and did a lot of things that my mother and dad didn't know we did. And if we got into something, like one time, we had an old mare, and I mean her broad back was probably that broad, and we decided we had seen the Barnum and Bailey circus, and that lady that gets up and stands up on that horse and goes around the arena. We were going to do that, so we decided, all three of us, because she had such a broad back, we could all three get up there. Well, we just got stood up on her, and there was a big tree over us, an old oak, so you could hang on to that branch in case. And a horsefly bit the mare. And when she started shaking, we all fell off. Along the side of the fence, there was a lot of grapevines. Every kid has to sneak matches and try a grapevine, And so we burned our tongue a whole lot of times trying to smoke those grapevines. When you live that far out in the country, there's just not hardly anything, because we were walking wherever we went. We didn't have cars. It was during World War II. My dad got an old Model A, and we got to go to town on Saturday afternoons then, after we got that old Model A, and that was our thrill. We got to go to the show. And you could see 2 movies, and they were always westerns, And we would have sat through a dozen if we could have stayed in that show building, because that's all we had, all we knew, that was such a thrill. But I remember Mom gave us a quarter, and we had popcorn. We could have popcorn and a Coke and the movie, and that was all we needed. we had it made, you know. We had no electricity. We got our water, or our, I remember carrying a water bucket that was a little bitty bucket, like what kids get sand in today, you know. But I think they were lard buckets, is what they were back then. And we had lamps, and we had a wood stove, and my mother could cook, I thought, and there's a lot of people that think that, or thought that, better than anybody in the world, you know. And she sewed, and she made dresses for us, starched and ironed them till they were just beautiful, you know, out of feed sack. We spoke Cherokee. I didn't speak English good until I was probably 10 or 12 years old. But after my father and mother divorced, we began to speak English more. And of course, having to go to school, you had to speak English at school, you know. And we began to get more fluent in our English, and began to, as time went by, we lost our Cherokee more and more. But then a lot of the Cherokees back then were beginning to change from Cherokee to English, so it was easier for us, you know, that way. All Indians liked cream and biscuits for breakfast or supper or whenever they ate it. And lots of times, Mom would fill the jar with cream, and we'd take them down to the spring, and under the spring there was a real cool place where the air came, cold air came out, and of course the spring came out there. And there was a ledge under there, and we'd set the milk and cream or whatever under there. It was for anybody that wanted it, anybody that, you know, just saw it and took it. And the whole community knew it, you know. Well, they would wash their containers, and they'd bring them back to the spring. We never knew who got them. I always thought that was such a good thing to do, you know. And we just lived every day like, well, it was normal for us. We didn't, you know, we didn't brag about what we did. We didn't know we were doing anything good. We just, you know, it just felt good to do it, you know. Word of mouth, I mean, gets around fast if you're, you know, going to have a hog fry or something, you know. People hear fast, and you see people that you haven't seen for a long time sometimes, you know, at those gatherings. But I miss those. We didn't have anything, and yet we had a whole lot more than a lot of people, because we had togetherness, and we had love in our family, and we still have that. And I think more than anything, you know, that's what makes you want to do things. If you have encouragement, and if you have somebody behind you saying, I'm proud of you,